Yo, yo, yo! Welcome everybody to another live episode of Tjibaria's Daily Show, aka the after party of Project 1 Million in 1 year after day number 2. And today I'm going to share with you guys the funny and crazy story of how I was able to make my first sale and actually how I did that without even having a product ready. So that's going to be an interesting thing, but also how after that, oh, I'm just testing this out, it's working. How after that I was able to automate it, and how you and everybody watching this live or on the replay can do this too. So everybody, let's get ready. Let's do this. Let's go. Hello, beautiful people, and I am so excited because we just had an absolutely beautiful session with our incredible Project 1 Million in 1 year participants on day number 2. And day number 2 always has a very special place in my heart because people actually start to see what are those limiting beliefs that we have in our upper chamber, and those things that have basically been stopping us for a very long time, but that those beliefs and those things that are in our subconscious are actually not ours, and a lot of the time have been there for a long time but are definitely not serving us. And after a day as day number 2 is always so beautiful because people start to have those realizations to basically realize that there's nothing that they cannot do, and that basically allowing those things that don't serve us to go out, now we have the time to actually start building and incorporating the beautiful steps and strategies that we will do for the rest of this event, which is day number 3, 4, and 5, where tomorrow we're going to actually build the business. Then on day number 4, we're going to talk about deep impact and basically seeing sales for what it really is, which is spiritual activity. And then on day number 5, everybody's going to learn how to actually monetize and how to make their first 1K, then to make their first 10K, then 100K, then 7 figures. And with all of that, I thought today would have been the perfect moment for me to share a little story about how actually everything changed for me. And before I go into that story, which is very close to my heart and it's always making me laugh just to see how crazy things had happened in my story, and I think a lot of you can relate to those things. I just want to say, if you're new to the channel, please like the video, please subscribe, please hit the bell so that you are able to catch a lot more episodes of our daily show, so that you can really go and create the life of your dreams and your freedom lifestyle as well. But without any further ado, when I got started in business, it was actually quite an interesting endeavor because on the one hand, I was someone with a background from science, and as I shared in the event and many times on this channel, as a scientist, it's the complete opposite mindset of an entrepreneur. Because as a scientist, you want to see something before you believe it. That's how you've been educated. You have to prove things. Whereas as an entrepreneur, it's the other way around. You have to believe in it before you can see it, and then you make it into a reality. And so, even though I came from that science background, I had a very entrepreneurial upbringing from my parents, in the sense that they always said to us to believe in ourselves, they always reinforced to us that we're special, that there's nothing that we cannot do. And because of those values, also being able to shift from that more scientific mind to actually a let's go and help people and build a business type of mind was actually really quite beautiful and exciting, because of the way how our parents had brought us up. So I'm going to give a big shout out to my parents and just everything that they've done for us. But even at that, I very much in the beginning still had doubts. And I want to ask this to our audience here today. Comment below if whether you are at the beginning of the journey or starting your business, or whether you already have a business for some time and you're looking to actually make it into a success and grow it, whether you also sometimes have those doubts. And I want to ask this specific question: is there anybody here who's ever thought, well, I'm not sure if I can do it. I'm not if I'm actually checking if my mic is good. I've just shifted my mic. 1 second. Let me Let me know if the sound is still good. La 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 la. Testing, testing, testing. Okay, I'm just gonna check. I do apologize. Okay, I think it's okay. Let me know in the chat box if you can hear me properly. I think the sound is still good, but because I shift the mic, I just want to make sure that it is good. All right, cool. So carrying on. In the beginning, you might think like, okay, you're learning a bunch of things, but you still have that thought maybe, and let me know if you guys do, that can I really do this? So after a day like today, with the whole business and money shift, it's like, okay, I can start to see that actually I've been the one holding myself back to receiving that abundance. Actually, there are certain things in the mind that now we've taken away, and now start to actually go and do the steps and do the copy strategy, go and be visible, speak to people. But in all of that, what I definitely had is that I know, okay, theoretically, I can realize now that yes, I can do it too. But then the question comes, can I actually do it? Let me know in the chat box if you can relate to that, or if you've ever wondered that for yourself, or you has asked yourself that question. And I certainly did. But I guess the biggest remedy to that, and I want to share that with you guys, is that I have always been very, very coachable. And I take action, massive action. And I love keeping momentum as well. I don't just take action for a little bit, but I love to carry on with that action. And unfortunately, and I'm going to make another video about this soon as well, probably after the event, is that I see so many people, they start something and they don't complete it. They dip in their toes and then they take themselves out of the game. And that's exactly the reason why most people aren't the most successful, because they can't see something through to the end. And it's just like that little figurine. I don't know if you guys have ever seen it, of this guy. He's a miner, and you see two miners, right? One miner is very, very close to actually getting the diamonds, but then he stops and he walks back, whereas the other miner is still going. And the thing is, you never actually know how close you may be to your breakthrough and through to your big success. And so that's a very, very big thing. And what has really helped me in my journey, and I want you guys to hopefully take that to heart as well and comment that below, is take action, keep momentum, and be coachable. And so what really helped me is I invested in myself, as I shared my story during the event, and people on my YouTube channel, you probably have heard me say this many times before, and I started learning from a mentor. But there's no point in investing in yourself and learning from a mentor if you're not going to do what the mentor tells you. So I was listening to what my mentor told me to do. And actually, I don't remember if I've ever told this story to this degree. But actually, the first sale that I made was not for my own product. And the main purpose of this video is actually to tell how I made the first sale for my actual own company and my own product. Basically, that's better said, my own product. But before that, I actually made sales already before, and I wasn't selling my own product. I was selling my mentor's product from the company H Academy. And it was actually quite interesting because I was taking action. I was listening to what my mentor told me to do. He was saying, being visible, have conversations with people, listen to what are the problems that people are facing. And if you can solve them, go and solve that for them and then sell it. So the first thing that I learned to sell was actually event tickets to our beautiful event back in the day called Superpower Life. It was a 3-day, absolutely transformational event, not just on the sake of business, but also for mindset and spirituality. And we were selling tickets to those events for £100. But the funny thing was, as I was starting to have those conversations, it was really interesting. So he gave me a script. So I learned the script. And then I was making phone calls. I was grabbing my phone and was just like going through the script, and I was, saying what I was supposed to say. And then he already told me like this and this and this is what happens. So people can say this, people can say that, and then you learn how to handle it and whatever. But it was so weird because theoretically it's like, yeah, it makes sense. But I was so afraid that some people may be unkind, or people will say no and they weren't gonna buy and whatever. And I started to implement, I started to do it. And I was so excited. And before you know it, I actually I went with my mentor to London because he was running another event, or he was actually a guest speaker at another person's event. And I was just like, oh my goodness, this stuff for this event, as I was making the calls, it was so cool. And I had such lovely conversations, no sales yet, but I had really lovely conversations. I was like, you know what? The whole world is my canvas. I should go and speak to everybody that I can speak to, not just on the phone, not just online. but also in person. And we just happened to go to a beautiful room full of entrepreneurs that wanted to grow their business. And here was the thing, I was there with my mentor, and he was a guest speaker in that event. And I started speaking to people. I started like, hey, what are you doing? This and that. And I started talking about our event. And before you know it, I closed one deal at that event. I closed the ticket, $100. I took my first payment, and it was just like, oh, this is awesome. And in the break, after my mentor had spoken, we went for lunch, and then we walked back, and I said, oh, by the way, thank you so much for teaching me the strategies, and thank you so much for telling me to persist with it, because it actually works. He said, oh, did you close the deal? I said, yes, I closed the deal. He said, who did you close? This person at the event. And then he got mad at me because, oh my goodness, it's just, I feel so shameful when I think back to it. It was just such a moment where you just, you go through the ground. Is, as a newbie, I didn't know there was an unwritten rule that you shouldn't go and sell in another person's room. And I don't know, for any of you that are speakers or are speakers, in the industry, you've gone to other people's rooms, you've been invited to as a speaker or on a podcast or whatever. It's always common courtesy to either ask permission to say, hey, am I allowed to promote this and that, or what are the rules here? And unless you've got that permission, you shouldn't go and sell in another person's room. But I didn't know that I was a rookie, and I made my first sale. I was so proud. And then my mentor got mad at me. Well, mad ish. I was like, oh, that's an unwritten rule. You're not allowed to do that. And I felt so bad. And it felt to me like the world was ending. I was like, oh my goodness, I was so happy before. And now, So that was my actual first sale. And it was just like, oh, it was such a drama at the moment for me. I blew it up in my mind. But then I was like, okay, lesson learned. Let's carry on. But I did have that proof of, or at least a proof for me that, hey, this stuff works and this script works. And having a conversation with the person and figuring out what their problem is and then assessing for yourself if you can solve it. That's literally all there is to it. And so for those of you that were part of this day number 2 that we just had, where I shared the coffee strategy, which is ask the question, how can I help you? Or a more sophisticated way, asking a person like, what is it that they want to achieve and what are the challenges that they're facing in that? And then if you can legitimately solve it, to say, hey, let me solve that for you. That's literally all there is to it. And yes, there may be some clutter, there may be some objections and whatnot in there, which are to be handled. And that's obviously the more detailed picture of the story, but that's the core of it. So I started to keep doing that, and I sharpened my skills. I trained my muscles in selling my mentor's product, and I was having calls, I was having interviews, I was learning how all of this stuff works. And before you know it, after 3 weeks, roughly, I closed, or I co-closed £70,000, and this was absolutely ridiculous to me because I for those of you who know the story, I had to struggle to find the investment for a program that was worth 7,000 so I can invest in myself. And then after investing in myself and finding the money that I actually didn't have and actually learn from a mentor that has results and that could tell me exactly what to do and what not to do, I could shortcut my way to success. Because he had been in business at that time for, I don't even know how many years. He started basically as a youngster already, like in his teens. There's so many years that he had put into now knowing what to do, what not to do, that I in 3 weeks could shortcut years of my learning journey, my learning curve. And that was absolutely incredible to me. So I started carrying on and I stayed the action take. I kept momentum. I was learning. I was asking questions actively. And every single time as something went wrong, I went back to the drawing table and I asked him, like, what did I do wrong? What do you think of this? I was recording some of my pitches and some of the things that I was presenting. And it's like, hey, can you have a look at this? What do you think? This is good. This is not good. And so things progressed. And at a certain point, well, it was actually in around the first few weeks as well, he was very happy and excited and impressed. And that's when I became the CEO of the company. And then at a certain point, as we started to grow, then we start hiring people. And when we had new team members and I was the new team leader, then I started to share what I've learned to the team. And the team was picking it up really quick and things were going and growing. And it's like, this was so cool. Like the company was growing a lot. And then it was at a certain point that he came to me and said, hey, you know what? You should really share this with more people.
And I wanted to share it with more people. I was always again looking to learn, and I was looking for different programs that could help me to grow it more. There was people like Neil Patel that I wanted to learn from, and Frank Kern, Ryan Dice, all of these marketing gurus, because I very, very much loved that. And at some point we invested in something, or we got a certain very beautiful deal where we got our hands on really cool software, not software, learning material from Digital Marketer with Ryan Dice, Molly Pittman, and the whole crew. And so I was just like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited. I was just like literally on the edge of my seat. And it was like, okay, cool. I want to learn this stuff. Because what you guys will come to realize is that actually at that point, which was a few months in, I was really annoying. I was literally like sitting on the edge of my chair. As much as I was a good, motivated student, I was so motivated that I got impatient. Is there anybody who can resonate with that? That you get impatient sometimes? I was just like, oh man, I can't wait, I can't wait, I can't wait. I want this thing to happen. So I kept going to my mentor. I was just like, ah! And they said, okay, hey, learn this stuff. This is that course. So we invested in that course through a special deal, and I started to learn it. But it was also the moment that for the first time since I moved to the UK, first time I had my first trip back home, back to Amsterdam, and I was going to spend my time, a couple of weeks in Amsterdam. I think it was 2.5 weeks. But I also just had that course. So I was like, oh my goodness, how am I going to do this? Okay, cool. So I decided I was going to learn, I was going to have family time and then learn in the evenings and nighttime. So this became a very interesting trip. And this was actually where, for the first time, people started to say, hey, Tjibaria, do you even sleep? Because I was so dedicated. And I also wanted to obviously have the quality time with family, that I was really like balancing between the two. And I was having family time and then I was learning until late in the night. But that studying paid off, because I started to learn for the first time ever automation, landing pages, tripwires, lead magnets, marketing on another level with ads. And it's just like, oh, this stuff is amazing. So every single day I was messaging Master Shakash. I was like, oh my God, this stuff is awesome. I was at point, I was like, oh, this is so good. This is so interesting. And at some point, I had an epiphany, and I was just like, man, this stuff is so good. We need to share it with our existing clients. So I sent him a message like, our clients should know this. So he said, you know what? Why don't you do a session about this? We have an event coming up called Master the Stage. And why don't you do a 90-minute presentation and you share this newfound knowledge? And I was like, yes. I said yes, and I figured it out later. So I want you guys to write that down as well. When an opportunity comes along that you're aligned with, you must grab it, right? Say yes and figure it out later. So I said yes, but now I have to go and create a presentation. And I had 2.5 weeks at home in Amsterdam, and then the event was going to take place a few days later. So I was going to get back on Sunday, and then we were going to go to London on Tuesday, and then the event was going to start on Wednesday, and then my presentation was going to be on Friday, something like that. So I had a very short time span. I was still learning everything, and very short time span to also create a presentation. So that was the moment where I slept even less. And I think at the start of the holiday, I was sleeping like 5 hours per day. Now I was sleeping 4 hours per day. I was like, oh, creating all of this stuff, and it was just awesome, right? So then I flew back to the UK, and on a Sunday I came back to the office. And yes, we worked on a Sunday. The team was in the office on the Sunday. And by the way, this was a very small office in a house, and in a garage in a house, like this situation together. And I came into the office, and everybody was there. And it was like, hi everybody, good to see you. And then Master Akashna, as everybody was gathered around the table, it's like, okay, why don't you do your presentation? And mind you, my presentation was far from finished. I still had 3-4 days, and I already barely slept. But he asked me, so I said, okay. I said yes, and I would figure it out later. So I put down my bag, I went to the flip chart, and I started to present. And I started to talk what I've learned. I was like kind of winging it because, again, I didn't have my stuff ready. So I was just writing down some stuff that I remember and blah, blah, blah. I was putting it down. And 30 minutes in, Master Yugastan said, okay, stop. And I was like, oh, darn. Did I mess this up? Was it that bad? And then he said this to me. He said, you should sell your course. And I was already sleep deprived at that moment. So I was like, huh? Sorry, what did you say? And he says, you should sell your course. And I was standing at the edge of the room, but for some reason I turned around saying like, is there me? And he said, yeah, you should sell your course. And I was like, did I miss a memo or something? I don't have a course. So I said to him, I don't have a course. He said, sure you do. I was like, what am I missing? How tired must I be that I don't even know that I have a course? And he says, didn't you just explain all of this stuff? I said, yes. He says, don't you have a notebook full of notes where you've just learned all of these things? I said, yes. He says, then you have a course. And I know that it didn't really sink in at that moment, but I said, yes. And he said, you should sell it on your presentation next Friday. And I said, yes. I say, yes, let's figure it out again. And that was the moment when I started to sleep 3 hours per day. Because now that I not only have to go and make sure that I present like this information, but also I had to go and create a cell. And ladies and gentlemen, creating a cell is a whole nother ballgame. So I had to really put that stuff together. And it was interesting, and maybe I'll share a bit more about it in another episode. But basically, I didn't have it, but I did what is called a pre-sell. So I want everybody to comment that below. It's a pre-sell. And I learned that then that day. And later on, as I carried on in my entrepreneurial journey, I actually realized that all top entrepreneurs do that. It's like there's so many people, they start their business and then they focus on creating the product and they put stuff together and design it. And they, let's just say in the area of course creation, they create a whole course. They first buy the right camera, then they buy the right light, and they have to like wait 5 million years before they finally have the studio equipment. Then they go and create the draft, then they go and create the course. 500 million years in, finally they have the course and they have created it, and nobody wants the darn thing because they didn't test the market. So that's why the most top entrepreneurs, and you see this everywhere, they test the market. And the pre-sale is exactly what does that. What a pre-sale basically means, and I'll quickly describe it as I'm walking to the board. So I just going to ask my camera to kindly walk with me. Come on, you can do it. You can do it. I'll just quickly get everything going with me. There we go. And I must say, I'm still getting used to this absolutely awesome camera where it follows me. And courtesy again to Master Akashna for this wonderful, wonderful gift. All right, so camera, yes, you must follow me. There we go. Okay, perfect. Okay, now you can go down a little bit. All right, can you guys still hear me? Let me know. Now, when it comes to you doing a pre-sale, it's basically that you want to have a couple of information pieces ready and created, but most of it is not created because, like I shared, I sold my first product without actually having it. But what you do got to have is the following few things. So I want you guys to write this down. The first thing you need to have is a name. So what are you going to call this thing? And in my case, I was like, okay, I've learned how to do the digital marketing side of things. I learned how to automate. I've learned how to go and basically maximize things and create it. I was like, passive profit maximizer. That was the name, right? So it was PPM. That was what I thought at the time was a good name. PPM, passive profit maximizer. Now, it wasn't really a good name, but that's what I thought at the beginning. So that was the thing. Now, the second thing that you will want to know is what is the price going to be? Yeah, what is this thing going to sell for when you launch it? So whether or not you do this for a program or a service or whatnot, or whether you do it for a book, like what I shared earlier today in the day 2 example, where I said, hey, I'm going to launch this book. When it launches for $7. But right now I'm doing a very special pre-offer or pre-special. So that's the second thing. You want to have a special offer that you're doing right now in this pre-launch phase. Now, and in that, with this book and the example that I did on day number 2, the example was that I said, okay, this price is going to be $7. Right now, I'm giving it away for free for the first however many. Now, and then in this example, when it came to the course, I basically said, okay, the price when I launch this course, and this course is going to teach people A, B, C, D, all of those things. So you do want to have a little bit of a structure that you understand what is this thing that I'm going to bring to the market, going to do in terms of the A to B journey. You kind of want to have an understanding, say, okay, I'm going to bring people from A to B. And in doing so, there's a couple of topics that I'm going to address. So in my case, I was going to teach people how to launch a business using digital marketing. So there are certain things like finding a product was one thing, becoming visible was another thing, learning how to convert was another thing, learning how to automate was another thing. So I kind of had an idea, okay, this is the end outcome that people are going to walk away with. And then from that, I am going to have to break it up. Let's go. I'm going to, make sure that you guys can see it and my mic doesn't intrude too much, but that there is a couple of different steps. Ooh, this is quite a different dance now. Okay, there we go. That there's a few different steps that you then want to break it down into what are the individual steps that I'm going to take them through. But it doesn't mean that you have the whole thing created, you have every chapter written out. No, it's just like you say, okay, I'm going to take people from A to B. And in order to do that, there's a couple of topics that I need to talk about, say 7 topics. And that's the extent to what you have to know to be able to do this pre-launch. You don't have to figure everything out at the beginning. So then I said, okay, so when I launch this thing, I'm going to sell it for 7,000. That was the number that was very much in my life at that moment. A lot of courses sold for 7,000. I was like, okay, 7,000 is what it's going to be. And right now, at this special situation, I'm going to do a offer, a pre-launch offer. Yeah, that was my special situation. I was going to do it for only 2,000. And so that is basically the details that you need to know. You need to know what is the name, what is the price when you launch it, what's going to be the special offer right now during the pre-launch phase, and a little bit about what you're going to do for people. So I learned that. So I prepared that. And as I was preparing, it was like I was so sleepy because I didn't sleep that much. I actually, as I was preparing my pitch, I fell asleep on stage. So that was the one time that I slept on stage, which was quite an interesting thing to me. But I also have fond memories of it. But then I started to prepare everything. And then came the Friday where I was going to do my first ever pitch on stage in front of an audience for a product of my own that I didn't even have yet. So as much as I understood all of this, and I understood that, okay, this concept, it's not the first time that I'm hearing it. I actually, as he explained it, I started to realize that I've seen other people do the same. And I was like, okay, this stuff can actually work. But still that little doubt came up. It's like, can I make it work? That was the question. I was like, oh, this is so exciting, but I've practiced it. I've listened to what the steps are supposed to be. I've now got everything, but can I do it? And this was the interesting thing. So Friday came. I had a lot of coffee in my system because I was tired. And I stood on the stage, and for the first, let's say 45 minutes, I was speaking, giving lots of value. The audience was enjoying it, so that was good. And then I said, towards the end, it's like, okay, I want to say thank you guys for listening to my presentation. And I hope you guys have learned something. I hope you guys have enjoyed something. And I'm actually launching a course. And then I start writing these things down. So I was like, this course, oh, it's mirrored. Okay, I'm so sorry. In this software, I haven't fixed the mirroring thing yet. So I hope, is there a thing? Oh, mirror camera, let's try it again. Can you guys see it now? Is it clear now? I think I solved it. All right, anyways, I'm going to carry on, but thank you for letting me know. And then again, we'll put this a little bit to the side so you guys can actually, not too much to the side. There we go. Yeah, I think you should be able to see it now. Yeah, I think now it's solved, right? So, but in any case, I said, okay, so this course that I'm launching, and I want you guys to actually write this down. This is literally a pitch format. So I said, okay, so I'm going to launch a course. Oh, there's one more thing that I forgot to put on here. You want to also get a date, so a launch date. Yeah, so you want to say, and this is what I'm going to do right now. I said, okay, ladies and gentlemen, I'm actually launching a course. The name of the course is called PPM, Passive Profit Maximizer, and this course is going to launch in 30 days. So I believe it was like the 30th of a certain month, because I remember the 30, but it's going to launch in 30 days. And Oh, maybe the 30 was just the 30 days. Anyways, it's going to launch in about a month. And when it launches, it will sell for $7,000. But right now, because this is the pre launch, if you want to get early access to this course, you will be able to get it for only 2,000. And if you want to get this opportunity, make your way to the back and see the team. And I stood like this, right? I was like, see the team. And I had so much disbelief, but obviously I didn't. I stayed cool. So I was like, see the team. And you want to know what happened? Someone stood up and someone walked to the back to buy the course. And I was seeing that happen. I said, see the team. And everything's always in slow motion, right? When you go through this major live events, I was like, see the team. And this person stood up. And I felt like that cartoon character that is supposed to be like when the eyes come out like, blear, and then the mouth opens, and then the tongue rolls out. I felt like that. But obviously, I couldn't do like, what? Is someone actually standing up? That would have been really unprofessional. So I was like this. But internally, it felt like that. I was like, someone is standing up. Can't believe it. So then I completed the presentation and I went to see the team and I said, team, I saw someone walk to the back. Did they buy? I said, yes, they bought. And they paid in full, 2,000. And that's when my life really changed. Because for the first time ever, did I experience someone buying something from me. But not just buying something from me, buying something from me that I didn't even have yet. And I obviously communicate that completely honestly. I didn't say, hey, this course already exists. No, I say, this is a pre-launch. I'm going to launch it then. It's not created yet. I'm working on it right now and blah, blah, blah. Always fully honest. But I just couldn't believe it. Because up to that point, before I went into business, that was a few months before this, I was making roughly 2,000 per month in my PhD, my job. And I was working really, really hard every single month to make the 2,000. And what has just happened now is that I did a 90-minute presentation and I made the exact same amount of money in 90 minutes for a product that I didn't even have yet. I don't know about you guys, but for me, that was really special. And some of you may listen to this and be like, okay, how do you say? I don't think it's a big amount. It's not, super huge. And you're absolutely right. Like 2,000 is not a million yet, but it was the first start towards it. And with all of that, it just like, it showed me that it's possible. It was a huge, huge eye opener. And so then I was like, okay, cool. So what do you do when you've made your first sale? Rinse and repeat. And so it was shortly thereafter that we had our mastermind retreat in Vietnam, in Ho Chi Minh City. And we had our top clients from the company, H Academy, which is, by the way, we made the first 2 Comma Club Award. That one. There we go. That's for H Academy. And this one is with Freedom Lifestyle Creators. But then we went to Vietnam, Ho Chi Minh City. We had a group of like 14, 16 incredible superstar students from all around the world that flew in. And we had I think it was 8 days of masterminding and working on their businesses and helping them and stuff like that. And we decided to do a little contest. And we were obviously all in the mood of the automation, and because I just learned that stuff, and it's like, yeah, let's do that. Let's help all of these students to do that. And we came up with the idea of let's do a webinar contest. Now, comment below the word webinar. Webinar is basically an online mini event that takes around 90 minutes, 2 hours, or if you're me, a little bit longer. And you're basically sharing some really good information about the topic. And then at the end, you make an offer and you share, hey, if you want to know more, I've got a course, blah, 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 something like that. And that was also a little bit new to me. I've seen and attended other people's webinars, but I've never done one myself. Or I had, but not to that same level, not like an actual good sales webinar. So I was like, oh, cool, let's do it. Let's go for it. And we did that contest with the students, but I don't know about you guys, but I always like to be in the field with the students. Like whenever I say, hey, students, do this, I want to practice what I preach. So I said, students, I'm going to join you. I'm going to join this contest as well. Let's do it together. Let's see who can win. So it was really exciting. And we basically said, okay, we have like around 8 days. We got 16 people, including myself, and obviously there was the team, but I was the only one participating with them. And then we said, okay, with 8 days, 16 people, we do 2 webinars per day. So everyone gets a slot. There's this person, that person. Maybe it was a bit longer because we do give everybody a little bit of time to prepare for it. And I think maybe we had like 10 days or maybe 11 days, something like that. So the first few days was everybody preparing, everybody putting together their landing pages, their topics, their offers. So my business partner and me, we were teaching how to do all of these things. We were looking over their shoulders, giving them templates. They were putting everything together. And then came the marketing. So we said, okay, everybody make sure to go live, do this, do that, get some people on board. So everybody was working on that. It was really, really cool. It was such a beautiful moment, actually, to think back to. Like, it was very stressful at the time, as is with most things, but now that I think back, it's like, that was such a beautiful period in my life and in my business. And so we did that contest. And then came the Thursday, which was my day. And my webinar was going to take place at 8 p.m. UK time, because we were based in the UK at the time. And I used to always do like an 8 o'clock thing. My business partner was always doing an 8 o'clock thing. Everybody did the 8 o'clock thing. So I said 8 UK time. But I was in Vietnam and it was a big time difference. So my presentation wasn't going to start until like 4 a.m. in the morning in Vietnam time, or 3 a.m. in the morning, something like that. So I prepared myself, and I was in my hotel room, and everybody was sleeping. The whole hotel was sleeping, and I was there running a webinar. And I can't remember this anymore. And it really, like, I can't remember what it was. But I either did the webinar with or without the camera. But I feel like maybe I did it without the camera. Anyways, imagine someone sitting in a dark room, no camera. I just had a script. And guess what was my script? Exactly the same as the event that I just ran, or the presentation that I did at the other event. So I had my script. I was in a room behind a laptop, sharing a story, sharing my presentation, doing a particular cell in this format without a camera, and just reading off a script, because I had scripted everything out since the event passed. I just want to ask you guys a question. How many of you think you can do that? That you can have a little session, you can read off a script without even showing your face. But I can't remember if I did or didn't, because I did test both things a lot back then. And I did half of them without face, half of them with face, and a lot of different stuff. But that was for my webinar. Before that, obviously, everybody knew who I was. I was inviting them, come, that sort of stuff. So they did know who I am. But on the webinar, it was just my voice. But how many of you think that you can do it? Let me know in the chat box. I think every person that has the ability to read and speak can do it. And obviously, there's a bit of practice to it, which we noticed as well with all of the other students that were competing in this contest. But that wasn't the hardest task. So there I was, running this webinar, reading off my script, and 2 hours flew by. And then I finished the webinar. I closed my laptop, and I could literally see some light already coming underneath of the curtains, because it was in the middle of the night, but the sun was coming up 2 hours later, after 4 p.m. or after 3 a.m., something like that. So it was now 5 a.m. roughly. And I was sitting there in the darkened room, and I saw my phone pling. And then I saw my phone pling again. I was like, what is that? Can it be true? So I grabbed my phone. And not only did I see one Stripe notification, I saw 2 Stripe notifications. And it was another 2 people that bought my course that didn't even exist yet, for 2,000 each. I had just spent 2 hours, made double my salary, by reading off a script and actually helping people in a way that I've not done yet to that point with my own thing. I've never even done yet, really, in my career before business. And again, I was really flabbergasted. And some of you might listen to this and like, 4K, that's not that much. But it was to me. It was huge. Because now I had realized that, okay, I've done it in person, in an in-person seminar where I shared something and people really saw the value in it. And now I repeated it in an online environment. And another two people bought. I'd made 6,000 at that point. I was just like, what in heaven is this opportunity? But guess what I also did? I had recorded the webinar. How many of you are having an aha moment right now? I had recorded the webinar, and it was at that time, it wasn't as oversaturated to have had recorded webinars and stuff like that and recorded trainings. It was not as oversaturated as it is right now, where live trainings is a lot more beneficial than a recorded thing. But at the time it wasn't. So I was like, okay, I'm going to put that show on the road. I've got the perfect webinar. Let's go and put it out there and see how it can perform on its own. And in some occasions, it made sales. In some occasions, it didn't. And then I did some more live ones. But that was the moment where I was really like, man, this stuff actually works. And so when I had that proof of concept for the in-person event and then the proof of concept from the online event, that was like, man, this stuff is so good. I'm going to now double down on it. I'm going to create the automations. I'm going to basically see how can I get this information to more people. Now, obviously, now that I had 3 buyers, I better had to go into the studio and record that darn thing, which was another nightmare as well. But that's a luxury problem at that point, right? Like, how many of you would be very happy to create a beautiful course in 30 days if you had already gotten a couple of sales? It's like, yeah, now I know that people really want this thing. So now it's not like, oh, I'm just making this thing and I hope that someone will buy it. No, now I already had buyers. So I was like, okay, I was giving it my all. That was like another situation where I slept very little. That was like the least sleep, I think, in my entire life, that period of time. But it really changed my life. And then I automated the stuff and it laid the foundation for everything that we've built since then. And everything that I since then have shared with our students. Like, for those of you who don't know me that well yet, I have done so many webinars in my time. And over all of these years, I've kind of like perfected it and worked on it, what to say, what not to say. I've invested in so many different courses, so many different things. So I created like a perfect webinar script as well. And I did a 10-hour webinar training for my students. So that this was my top students. They were called the GIC student, the Global Impact Creators. And each of them were like, they invested like maybe 10,000 or 12,000 for my mentorship at the time. It's like many years ago. And I've recorded that entire thing. And then it was, I think, some point last year, I was like, you know what? I've got all of this stuff. Let me just give it to my students. So it was, I think it was around last year, I gave my perfect webinar, this entire training that usually people had to pay like thousands and thousands of dollars to be part of that. I was just like, I'm going to give it to all my students for free. Like, they're part of the community. So here you have it. And it was really quite beautiful to see like how much of an impact it has made to so many of our students. But what do I want you guys to take from this? I want you to take from this is that when I got started and when I invested in myself and I had a mentor, number one, as I shared early on in this video, is that it's very important that you are coachable, you listen to your mentor, you actually take the action and you keep that momentum. And keeping momentum is sometimes a tough thing because when you have like these little challenges that happen, like I had, my first sale was a not rightful sale. It was like, you have all these things like, oh my goodness, I feel like the world is ending. That in the event of those challenges will normally happen. It will all obviously happen, that you just keep going and you keep that momentum, because it is in that momentum where you're then starting to see, oh, okay, now I've learned from this. Now I understand this. Okay, let's keep going. And so those are the first thing, like be coachable, listen to your mentor, take action and keep momentum. That's number one. But then the second thing that, again, I want you guys to take away from it is that I, from listening to my mentor, already knew, okay, this is theoretically possible. But it wasn't until I actually started doing it and saw the results myself that I really knew with all my heart that it was possible for me. And so the second huge thing that I want you guys to take away from this is that unless you actually do the doings, take the action, you're not going to realize what is possible for you too. So don't wait. Don't be like in your passive seat for years and years and years. Just go out there. Be visible, speak to people, figure out what are their problems, figure out if you can solve it, either with your own product or with someone else's product. And then just go and make that happen. Do the sales. Say the script. Like anyone here can do that, like reading off a script. Whether there's a script, whether you're calling and closing someone, or whether you're in a Zoom call with someone, or whether you're running an event type of situation, like a webinar, anyone can do it. But most people, they withhold themselves from it because they are perfectionists. They think they have to go and create everything. And then only once it's created, then they can go and do it. But I just proved to you that I made my first bunch of sales without even having a product. Actually, by the time that the product launched, I think I had around 20 students. By the time that this course no, maybe not 20, maybe that was another thing, I think. No, was it that one or was it that? I can't remember. At least 10, I think. Around 10? I think around 10. But there was something that was also like a 20 students. I don't know if that was the second launch where I launched version 2 of PPM. But in any case, I had a whole bunch more students before this thing was actually released. And so what does that prove to you? It proves to you that you don't have to have everything figured out. You just need to know, and I'm just going to show this again for Hannah and everybody else. Just have a look. You need to have the name. You need to have the price. You need to have the offer, the launch date, and a little bit of a structure on what is it that you're going to be sharing with people. What is it that either your course or your program or your business as a service, maybe you have a different type of business and you can still do the same thing. You can even do this in property. You're going to sell a building, and that's what so many people do. They sell a building, they sell apartments before the building is even built. That's also a pre-launch offer. Like you can get this apartment for a very special off-market what's the name again? I keep forgetting it. It's not off-market, it's off-plan. Is it off-plan? Can't remember, but it's not built yet, basically. And then they do this too. It doesn't matter what your industry is. Anyone can do this stuff. And so I guess the biggest and final point is that just go out there and do it. It's not going to be perfect when you start. It's not going to be totally according to your plan. As a matter of fact, when you build a plan, you write a plan, it's probably going to be completely different. And that's also the thing, right? You can plan as much as you want, but then when you actually go do it, you'll see things that you wouldn't have been able to theorize in your plan. But that's where the magic happens. As the same conclusion as our video yesterday, the solution lies on focusing on being with the people, because it's the people that you can help, and it's the people that are going to pay for your product or your service, whether you have it or whether you don't. So I hope this was helpful for you guys. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did, because sharing this story and going back to memory lane is always a big one for me. But yeah, I just want you to know that that's the way how I experienced it. And there's always doubts, but unless you do the work, you're going to keep those doubts, or you're going to actually realize like, hey, wait a second, this actually works and I can do it too. So you're either going to be like on the side where you actually see it for yourself and you're going to get the results, or you're going to look at all of those other people that are doing it and you're going to be like, oh man, I wish that I did. Like, this is what my coach said to me recently. He said, either you're going to do it now, and a year from now, you're going to say to yourself, oh man, I'm so happy that I did. Or you're not going to do it now, and a year from now, you're going to say, oh, I wish I did it a year ago. Which one are you going to be? Let me know in the comments. Are you going to do it now? Then comment below and say now. Are you going to wait and wish that you did it? You're not even going to write that one down. So on that note, I'm going to go. Thank you guys so much for being here live or on the replay. This video is eternalized. So I just want to say thank you so much. I appreciate you guys so much. And if you're new to the channel, make sure to like the video. If you thought it was likable, make sure to share the video if you think someone else can benefit from it. And make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell so that you can stay up to date with those beautiful daily videos that we're making to help you guys create your freedom lifestyle. So on that note, I'm gonna go. But for all my Project 1 Million participants, I see you guys tomorrow. Hoo, ha, hoo. Bye.